This is a picture the world never saw. The smile, gone. The energy, vanished. This is Kelly Ripa in her darkest hour, sitting outside an ICU room, believing she was about to say goodbye to the love of her life, Mark Consuelos. We know them as television's golden couple, the pair whose love story seems ripped from a fairy tale. For nearly 3 decades, their bond has been our relationship North Star. But what if we told you that this unbreakable bond was once forged in the fires of absolute terror? That their legendary love was nearly shattered by a silent, sudden enemy that strikes millions? This isn't a story about a breakup. This is a story about a breakdown. A health crisis that came out of nowhere, and the single life-altering night where Kelly made a secret vow. A promise so powerful it not only saved Mark's life, but reinvented their future in a way that will astonish you. This is a story for anyone who has ever looked at their partner and wondered, what would I do if I lost you? For over 25 years, Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos have been the couple we all root for. They've built an empire on love, laughter, and a partnership that seems to defy the odds of Hollywood. We see the playful banter on the morning show, the glamorous red carpet appearances, the proud social media posts about their children. It's a picture of a life perfectly, joyfully assembled. They are, for so many of us, the embodiment of a dream realized, finding your soulmate and building a beautiful life together well into our 50s and 60s. They made marriage look not just easy, but exhilarating. But here is the first crucial truth about any long-term relationship, one that we in our 60s understand better than anyone. The strongest and most beautiful trees have the deepest and sometimes most hidden roots. They have weathered storms we never saw. And for Kelly and Mark, the most violent storm of all was not a public scandal or a career setback. It was a phone call. A single, frantic call that would tear down the golden illusion and replace it with the cold, sterile walls of a hospital. It began on an ordinary Tuesday with a pain Mark thought was just indigestion. It was supposed to be a normal day. Mark was away, working on a project. He felt a tightening in his chest, a shortness of breath he dismissed as stress, as fatigue, maybe something he ate. It's so easy to dismiss the signs, isn't it? We're at that age where little aches and pains become part of the background noise of our lives. But this was no minor pain. This was a cardiac event, a crisis that strikes without warning, a terrifying reminder of our own mortality. The phone call to Kelly was every partner's worst nightmare. The frantic, disorienting rush to the hospital, the blur of doctors' voices using words like blockage, critical, and ICU. In an instant, the world of red carpets and morning show laughter vanished. It was replaced by the hum and beep of life support machines. The vibrant, powerful Mark Consuelos was suddenly fragile, his life hanging in the balance. And Kelly, the woman who commands a stage with effortless grace, was rendered powerless, holding his still hand, watching the numbers on a screen dictate her future. She was facing the very real prospect of a future alone. But in that absolute darkness, as she listened to the rhythm of his labored breathing, a shocking clarity began to dawn. And in that clarity, she made a promise, not just to him, but to herself, a vow that would change the rules of their marriage forever. The night was long. The ICU is a place without time, lit only by the glow of monitors and the fear in your own heart. As Kelly kept her vigil, her mind didn't race to the glamorous parties or the public adoration. It went back to the simple moments, the shared coffee in their first kitchen, the exhausted, joyful chaos of parenting young children, the quiet comfort of reading in the same room. She realized with a painful jolt that they had been living in the someday trap. Someday we'll travel more, someday we'll slow down, someday we'll spend whole days talking about nothing. They had built a magnificent life, but were they truly living it, or were they just managing it? And so, in the quietest hour of the night, Kelly Ripa made a vow. She leaned close to Mark, and she whispered a promise. She vowed that if he fought, if he stayed, they would not return to the life they had. They would build a new one, a life where they were the priority. Not their careers, not their obligations, but their joy, their time, their connection. It was a promise to stop postponing happiness. But would he even remember it? And if he did, would a man like Mark Consuelos, a man of immense strength and pride, be willing to accept such a fundamental change? What happened next in that hospital room was nothing short of a miracle. But the true test was yet to come. Mark did fight. Slowly, steadily, he came back to her. The road to recovery was long and humbling. This formidable, independent man had to learn to accept help, to be vulnerable, to lean on his wife in ways he never had. And in that vulnerability, something beautiful happened. Their connection deepened past the point of romance into something more profound, a raw, unwavering interdependence. Once Mark was strong enough, Kelly reminded him of her ICU vow, and instead of resisting, he embraced it. He had faced his own mortality. He had no interest in returning to the frantic pace of before. This led to a decision that shocked their friends, their family, and their fans. They began to quietly, strategically step back. They started saying no to lucrative deals that would take them away from each other. They began planning not for work, but for life. They were starting to restructure their entire empire, not for more fame, but for more time. They were trading a portion of their spotlight for the sanctity of their sunset years. But one more heartbreaking challenge was lurking, one that would threaten to undo all their progress. Because their children, the very center of their universe, were about to present them with a new kind of test. Just as Mark was regaining his strength, the reality they had been preparing for finally arrived in full force. The empty nest. Their children, their three greatest accomplishments, were fully launched into their own brilliant lives and careers, often far from New York. For many couples, this stage can be a minefield. Without the daily focus of children, you are left staring at the person across the breakfast table, wondering what you have left in common. For a couple already grappling with a health crisis, this could have been a breaking point. The silence of the house could have echoed with all their fears. But Kelly and Mark did something extraordinary. Instead of letting the emptiness pull them apart, they let it pull them together. They made a conscious choice. They would not be two separate people in an empty house. They would be new partners on a new adventure. They started traveling together, just the two of them. They took on small joint projects that excited them. They began to date each other all over again. The crisis in the ICU had stripped away all the non-essentials, and what was left was a pure, chosen love. And this new chapter led them to a decision so surprising it made headlines across the country. A decision that would see them buying a home not in Hollywood, but in thousands of miles away, in a place that held the key to their very first days in love. In a move that stunned everyone, Kelly and Mark bought a home in Italy. Not just a vacation property, but a home, a base. They were actively building their new life around the very principles born in that ICU: joy, connection, and the preciousness of time. Italy was where they had secretly honeymooned. It was a return to their roots, to the young, wildly in love couple they were before the world knew their names. This wasn't a retirement, it was a renaissance. They were mapping their lives not around career opportunities, but around shared sunsets, long meals, and the simple, profound pleasure of each other's company. The emotional farewell the tabloids hinted at was never a goodbye between them. It was their goodbye to an old way of life. It was Kelly's farewell to the fears she felt in that hospital chair. It was their mutual farewell to the pressure of a non-stop public life. The tears were real, but they were tears of transformation, not of an ending. So the next time you see Kelly and Mark glowing with a new kind of light, you'll know the secret. Their love story isn't a fairy tale because it's been easy. It's a fairy tale because they have fought for it. They stared down the end and they made a choice. They chose each other, not just in the dramatic moments, but in the quiet, deliberate rebuilding of every day that followed. Their story is a powerful reminder that it is never, ever too late to make a new vow, to chart a new course, and to choose a life of love, no matter what storms you face.